Previously on Minecraft Bedrock Survival. It has been buried for thousands of years. A mystery, a secret. Now the most amazing discovery of our time is about to become the most extraordinary adventure of all time. Hello everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Minecraft Bedrock Survival. In today's episode though, we are heading off to our creative world because I want to show you a project I've been working on. Now a couple of months ago I showed you my automatic rail line selector for Player Minecart, and I've come up with a brand new version of it. And we're going to travel now to the creative world where we can showcase it and I can show you how it works. Ooh, firing off rockets there. And another one. So let's dial that. The gate is open, so let's hop on through to our creative world. And we made it through. Bit of a bumpy landing there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you it in action, and then I'm going to take you through the various versions and show you how it actually works. So let's quickly hop over there. Okay everyone, this is our test rail network, and what we're going to do is, you can see here I have all of the stations as tickets here in my inventory, and the station numbers are indicated by the number of sea lanterns, because sea lanterns are a nice easy block to be able to count from a distance. So we're going to hop in here at platform 4, and I think we'll go to platform 1 just at the top there. So we come in here, we have our ticket, we pop it in at the station, and then it gets started up and we're away. So as I said in the previous edition that we did of this, this is inspired by Rendog's HRN network, and this is how I sort of imagined that they would do it on the Hermitcraft server, so that you'd be able to buy a ticket and just travel wherever it is you wanted to go, non-interrupted. But they've put like a system where you can, as you come up to a junction, you select which line you want to travel on next. But I want to do it fully automatic. And let's see, we should now be passed up. Yep, there we go, and we're dropped off at platform 1. And just for the sake of testing, the minecarts are destroyed, but I do still need that ticket back. Okay, so we are at platform 1 now, and where should we go next? Let's go to number 5. So let's travel over there. Let's select ticket number 5, pop that in there, and then we're away. So the previous version of this that I created involved just a single track and non-interrupted, but I couldn't return the ticket fast enough in some of the other versions that I experimented with, so that I ended up having a look online, and there was a channel that I'd looked at through the Hermitcraft server because of the rail selector, and that was from CobblestoneAndDirt. I'll pop a link to his channel down in the description. And he designed a junction station, but it was designed for moving freight. It wasn't designed for moving players. And in his system, the minecarts, the hopper minecarts or the chest minecarts would come in, and they would get queued up and then dropped into a system to be sorted as to which direction they were having to go from each junction. And I took sort of the idea of that and re-engineered it so that it would work for player minecarts, and also I had to come up with some other designs for these sorts of systems here that I'll explain shortly, because some of the mechanics from his video that was quite a few years ago unfortunately don't work anymore. And there we go, we are now at platform 5. So let's head back to the beginning, and we'll go back now to platform 4. Yep, there's number 4 ticket. We'll go in there, and then once we get to number 4, I will then show you the various iterations that I've gone through to get to this point, and then we'll look at more detail of how this works. So let's hop up here. And we've been selected onto the correct line. The line there, you can just see it gets flashed and it's reset. And we're coming along. Which station did we pick? Did we pick 3 or 4? I think it was 4 we picked, wasn't it? So let's go down here. And we're off for number 4. So there we go. That is a working rail network. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go through the different iterations that I went through to get to this stage, and I'll show you all the components on how this actually works. Okay everyone, this was our first primary sort of attempt. There was like a few little experiments that I dotted around this sort of zone here with different things going on. But the premise of this one was you hop in, the same again, you have the hopper minecart which is dispatched ahead of you. A ticket is selected from these just regular item sorters, so that's all these are down here, just your normal item sorters, and depending on which line triggers is depending on which one gets the signal and then sends it up to the junctions ahead. And what way this works is because you have to be able to take your ticket with you, I use a series of droppers to accelerate the ticket ahead of the minecart and spit it back out so it could be collected. Flaws with that though is that I had to put an extra bit of delay, just an extra 2 tracks worth of delay to get it to go back into the cart, which is not very efficient. The idea was, of course, as I said, just to travel along and then to you know, have it pick it up straight away so that you wouldn't have to have any interruption. But we'll quickly ride this one, and this one has 2 different sort of versions of it because timing was an issue. So we'll go all the way to platform, what is that one there? That platform 7, I think, over there. Just looking from the count there. It's been a while since I did this. So actually, we should have a ticket in here for it. Yeah, it's definitely a platform 7. So we'll hop in here and we will go to platform 7. So it's very similar. It's got a lot more complicated redstone, and you might, you know, didn't get to see it that time, but the ticket would have been returned. And you see there we get accelerated along. We're chasing the minecart, and this one here, hopefully you'll be able to see the ticket getting returned. Can you see it? Yep, you see there's the ticket getting returned to the minecart, and then we're getting accelerated along after it. And we should go, yep, over to platform number 7 there. So there we go. So that was the first iteration that I made. It's very, very bulky, uses massive pulse extenders, so I wouldn't recommend that one entirely. The second version that I was working on was faster ways to return the ticket, but this one doesn't always work very well, unfortunately. I tried using a pre-firer to get the ticket return to function faster, so that you could, it was already firing to return the ticket, but it worked brilliantly every time, except for the times where it didn't. So it would, I could put the minecart on and it would work every single time. It would drop it in there and it would get its ticket back over there, and then I would take away the minecart, put the minecart down again, and it would do it, and it would fail every single time. So then I would destroy that minecart, put another minecart on, and it would work perfectly every time after that. So it wasn't reliable, so I had to abandon this idea here, and that's kind of where I left it for quite a few months, until of course we come to this version over here. Now this one's a little bit more bulky than what the finished grid marked one is, and what it is you have a line that you can come in from any direction, and everyone is filed into one channel, and then the rail line is selected through an item sorter again, and then these tracks on the top here are adjusted. However, it's this version is very messy. I mean, you'll see I've got these massive pulse extenders. We have blocks all over the place. I mean, for one of these circuits here, we've had to bring redstone underneath all the way here. So I need to make a much more simpler design, and that is what we're going to have a look at now, and I'll go into a proper description of what's actually happening. There's a few different copies and iterations here, because this track here is the first version with the bulky messy one, which is from a video I put actually on Facebook the other day. But here is the proper version. It's all grid marked up, so we'll get some screenshots later on. I'll put them on my website. You can count the number of blocks that we've got. Everything's all marked up, so we can see here the dimensions of the main interchange section, and that is a 29 by 13 by 29 square. I'll put this little extra 2 little grid in here. That's included in the 13, which just marks out what the ground level would be, say, if you're building this on the surface. And then we also have the stations, which I'll look into as well there, because the stations are important for the timing as well, just for getting you and your hopper minecart away. And those stations are 10 by 8 by 15 long. Now, shall we? We'll have a look at the station here first, actually, because it's part of the first part of the system, and then we can step through the system, as it were. So here we have. At the minute, I've got just some bulky chest here, which is automatically refilling them, and we have our hopper minecart. So as we said, we pop our ticket into here. It moves along the track here, and then it goes into there. As it passes this last one, it sends a signal out, which is then, first of all, it fires that minecart away. It then sends a signal down the line which will replenish that hopper minecart for the next person to use. The signal also then comes along here, and this line here is to put another player minecart in. And there's a delay here, and this delay here gives the perfect distance, because the signal comes along here and it then charges, flips these over and charges that track so you travel, and that is the perfect timing for all of the switches that are in the junction. And I ran this, making it go on sort of a dead loop around the system over there, and it maintained perfect distance for 40 minutes because I let it run whilst I did other things, and they were still perfectly spaced apart. So as I said, what happens is this one gets fired off. A few moments later, you get fired off along, and then you're travelling along the rail lines. Now, what we have here is I put a little bit of Vex magic in, and this is to signify the infinite space between your station and your interchange. So it's you travel across here through the infinite void of the Vex magic, and then you are into the interchange. And what happens at the interchange is everyone has to get filtered down so we can get you to that item sorter at the bottom, where that is where your lines are going to be selected. Now, there's a few different, it looks like quite a complicated network, but it's when you look at it, it's not really that difficult. One thing that you have to take into, actually, well, I'll cover the orientation of the track once we step through the whole system, actually. So anyway, you come in and everyone has to be filtered down. So no matter which line you come in from this direction, and you all get filtered down onto this level, and you'll see that the tracks are orientated to capture everyone that comes in from no matter what direction you come down, and you will then get brought down to the item sorter. So from the item sorter, your hopper minecart will fly across the top, and in here, any line that you wish to program for will be selected. If you don't have to have every single station here programmed, because if we hold back up here, there is a default route. So no matter what happens, so once your line is once you've passed over the sorter, you will come back up here. The train line will be selected for you, but if no line is selected, you will simply come around and you will exit this path. So depending on the complexity of your network, see, you could, if you wanted here, you could only have maybe 3 stations, and then the default route is simply goes off to where all of the other stations are across your network. If there's something special that needs programming for, there is plenty of sorters down here that you can do that with. And as I said, these are just basic item sorters, so you just have a ticket in here, and that's it. You'd be away. But as I said, you come along here. An item, if an item is to be sorted, it will be selected, and you will travel back up. One extra thing I forgot to add there, just when you're constructing the item sorters down here to select the lines, make sure that your last hopper is facing the track. That's so that as the line comes across here, the item that gets dropped out, your ticket, can then get recollected as it comes here, so that you have your ticket with you for travelling through to the next station. But before that, let's have a look here. Now in the previous one, you saw all that big bulky pulse extenders, which I had to compress because that was way too bulky. So what I did was I put everything on the same level, and these are very special switches that allow for the way that we have to have 2 hopper minecarts, or 2 minecarts even, travelling on the network with one destination. So what we have here is our item sorter, and these little hookup points down at the bottom. All you simply have to do is make a very simple line to take from wherever it is that you're collecting the data from, and whichever one's going to be triggered, and bring it over to these little hookup points. And these little hookup points will invert the signal straight up and get it into these little switching relay boxes that I've made. And what we have here is a series of droppers Get rid of that. A series of droppers with comparators. Now you don't actually need these comparators here because I've just put those there to help for the illustration purposes. There is one item in here, and what happens is when your track is selected, a signal is sent up here, so we can simulate that by tapping here, and there you'll see the rail line would have been changed. So that there you'll see now is no longer going to the default path. That is telling us that we want to go on this track here. And if there's a problem and something else was to get triggered down here, sending a signal up here will not affect that turning on. But we need to be able to turn it off, and that is where we have our detector rail. So what we have here is we have a dropper here which goes into there, which then from that hopper it just flows into here and sits. And what we want to do is when the first minecart goes over that switch, you can see there that repeater there is charged, and you'll see there that flicks across and the signal is continuous, so that when the hopper goes over that switch and you are still behind it, the track does not change and reset. Maybe as whilst you are still, maybe it's on this block here, and then you would go this way and your minecart would go that way. They're timed. It's going again back to the station. The distance is perfect so that you will come along here, the switch will be triggered, and then when you pass over that, it has time for the switch to turn off, and you pass over it just as it goes off, and then a second signal is then sent to reset the line. So now you see that's back in the default. And if something was to go wrong and something was to go across here and that line wasn't active, you see there nothing happens. That single item is still down there. So let's see if we can try and trigger. There you go. So you see there the rail line was selected, and then you would go over here twice, and then that would be it. Then you would the line would be reset. So that is the basic operation of this. You see, you come in through here, you travel through the infinite space of the Vex magic. You come down here to be sorted in the sort of the brains of it. So this little computer here will select the line, and you send off the signal to get collected on one of these hookup feet, and then you are sent back up and sent on your way. So let's go over to the actual finished version and take a closer look at that and run a few tests on that over there. So let's see if we can trigger this off. We'll just do a near one, shall we? And see if we can see if we can illustrate the switches here being reset. I should say, if we look above here, these two switches are pretty much identical to the track, but because the sorting system is on this side, I built this line here slightly across, and it's actually inverted to the shape that these all form here. One thing I will say as well is when you're placing the track in the default here for the default line, and just for the resting, it should be this shape. So these have to be in these curves going around. Now, because of the whole north, south, east, west default train line orientation, sometimes you might have to make a slight adjustment, because we come in here, these lines here are by default charged, and this one here isn't because of that north, south, east, west train line orientation thing. All you have to do is, because all we're taking here is we take the signal and we take it straight up. Actually, that doesn't actually need to be here. I've cloned that from the previous one, that thing there. But anyway, all you have to do is, in that case, so by default you've got these ones here. If it's the other orientation, all you have to do is put a block out and simply do it in this direction, just to get that extra little sort of like inversion from the redstone torches. So anyway, let's just for the sake of experimentation, let's go from 4 here to number 3. Now, you will have to sit in the minecart for the start of this experiment, otherwise the player minecart will just stop. So let's go to number 3 and wait until it gets underway. And you see there, the line is selected. First one goes over, second one goes over, and the line is back to default. So that's all it is. And if it's a default track one, let's just go back to number, actually we'll go to number 2. So see here the rail cart has been replenished. Let's go to number 2. And we're moving. And we'll go above here. And you see here nothing got triggered, none of these lines. So that goes across there. And then it's selected on the default line, and it's going to travel all the way up here, and that was number 2, wasn't it, that said that we were going to. So let's watch this one here. So this is the line that should get selected. So we should see activity on the purple section once the item sorter picks it up. Yep. And there's that selected. Here we come up, hit it the first time, hit it the second time, and then the line is restored back for the next player to come through. And that is us on platform 2. Depending on how complex your rail network is across your world, as I said, you have the default routes. So in our case, we have a default route here, a default route here, here and here. Now, the way you lay out your stations or your interchanges is you want to be sending them to where the most number of routes are known, because we have the item sorter. If we just go down to this one here, without hitting the ground, you have here well, of course we have the ones that go off to 7 and 8, but inside of this one as well we also have programming for 5 and 6, because obviously that 5 and 6 is just over here on our network, and this is where you want to send them. So you have to, when you're designing your rail network, you have to take that into consideration. I'll put a little graphic up here on the screen now, and you can see this rail network here and what stations are programmed for what, and the arrows indicate the default line, and then the numbers next to each spoke indicates what is actually programmed at that station going in that direction. So you have to do a little bit of planning ahead of time when you're doing your rail network. But of course the item sorters are tileable. As much as I've put a few in here, and on my master one has 7. You can of course just tile these out, make them longer. You just simply, just have to, this little rail track here, just extend it out. And you'll be able to put in as many as you need. But if you plan ahead, you should only need a few. I mean, I've got how many here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think in our master one over there is 7. Yeah, so in the final iteration that I made here, yeah, there are 7, and that can be just for extra programming that you can put in there just to make sure the lines get selected right. And of course, from there, it's a simple process of just connecting whatever needs to be to these little hookup points on the bottom. So there we have it. That is our rail line selector. I will put a lot more detailed pictures of this from multiple angles on my website. I'll put some links to the bottom in the description. But yeah, it's really simple. It looks like it's complicated, but trust me, it really isn't once you actually get the hang of it. It's mainly just making sure that you have the line charged so that you can have the 2 minecarts come through. Of course, as I said, these stations could be miles away. You see here from my little rail network here, because I cloned these stations every time, this looks a bit funny. It's because I wanted to mess around with the default routes, which is why that one loops all the way around the back here, because I can't seem to figure out how to rotate with the clone. I tried using these structure blocks, but here in Bedrock it doesn't really seem to cooperate, because I seem to have disabled some of the functionality, and you can't load things from the structure blocks, it would appear, unless it's just something that I haven't figured out how to use yet. I only started using, only experimented with a structure block 2 days ago for the first time. There we go. I hope you like this. As I said, this works in Bedrock Edition, because we are playing Bedrock Edition here, so that is a plus. There's none of the different mechanics for the redstone that works in Java, but added bonus is this will work in Java as well. One thing as well, because of the mechanics changes, that is why we've had to put in this switching here. Plus as well, we also have to take into consideration, as I said, the 2 tracks, the 2 carts even, that are travelling over at any one time. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. So don't forget to rate, comment, favourite and subscribe. Ring the bell and do whatever little dances that YouTube make you do to get notifications for the videos that you want to see. You can maybe always send a message to Rendog and say that he needs to dig up all of his redstone and all of his stations and build this, because I think it'll be awesome on the Hermitcraft server, where if they could just simply buy a ticket from a vending machine so he could make some diamonds, and then you could fire off to anywhere on the network for the players just by popping in a little ticket. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is I think we will just have a little bit of fun, and I will leave you travelling to a few stations, and we will just play a little bit of music, and I'll see you all next time.
Take me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Filling the lungs inside you, and the blackened eyes make my way into your mind. Just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Teardrops on the floor. The pain is over. Feel the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you